it was a junior-senior high school at that time. They had underclassmen there for a while. It was exciting in that we could make our own traditions, start from scratch. It was an all-new staff with both experienced teachers from other places in the district, as well as a bunch of us were new teachers right out of college, starting that year. In fact, it was a good sprinkling, I think, of veterans that year who had come out of World War II and the Korean War, had gone to college, and then back there again. We were hired both for our knowledge, but more importantly, I think we were hired for our methods, that the district knew that we knew our subjects, and therefore they wanted us to use our own methods in putting over that subject to teachers. The students themselves had most of them had come from the city, especially the higher grades. The 11th grade had come from the city. The other ones had come from different small schools in Springersbury Independent and Spring Garden Township. We had to make the rules as we went. We had to get students used to the system that we were setting up there, because they had come from other systems. They were just not that familiar with the building at all. The teams were new. The band had been organized. They did their first programs on the field that year. The sports teams, all from scratch that year. They had entered interscholastic sports, even though the 11th grade coming in, they had been on other sports teams at William Penn Senior High School of York, but the teams were new. The colors, the pep rallies, the things that we had there, brand spanking new to those students. Dick May, he was the superintendent of buildings and grounds at the time. He took pride in his field. It was all grass there. They had to renew it almost every year or replant a lot, set up the drainage systems and so on. Of course, the seating was much smaller than what they have now. They had different bleacher units, especially for the visitors' side. They didn't have a lot of seating for them. They did not have what they have today, the concession areas and things like that, much greater use of them today than they were at that particular time. No one had artificial turf at that time. No one had the all-weather tracks. In fact, the track there, when I was there for the 28 years I was there, the track was cinder. It was all cinder track, nothing like they have today. Well, I taught psychology. I thought I was going to be hired as a history teacher because my major was social studies. But I taught psychology and POD, which was a required. Psychology was an elective subject. POD was a required subject by state law. Problems called Problems of Democracy was a political science class, all about American government and the problems that they would face with the courts and the executive office and so on. We were encouraged to encourage reading. We were encouraged to encourage writing. No matter what you taught, whether it be math or science or social studies, your test had to have at least partially essay-type questions. We were asked to check spelling. We took so much off, even though we weren't in an English class. We had to take so much off the grade for poor spelling. That was the emphasis in those years. We were encouraged to have class term papers for students to work on. I remember they picked the subjects in my classes, subjects in psychology or political science, and then they were graded not only by myself, but they were graded by the English department. It went down to the English department for the grammar and so on. The departments worked together. We did not face the child left behind laws, all of the state tests and the things that they have now. We did our own testing. We gave our own exams. they had to meet our objectives, our aims of the class, rather than some remote state test coming down from elsewhere. I think really that's the biggest change. Election night, my students came down, they sat on the floor and stood because it was a small apartment, and we watched the returns come in, and I encouraged them, no matter who they were for, whether they were Democrats or Republicans, to go out to the polls, to be poll watchers, to work for their favorite candidate. In fact, I think some of them did that at the time, but just to interest them in voting, to work for what they wanted to work for at the time. That was a lot of fun.